Ever marveled at how smartphones now are light yet so powerful? From the bulky plastic ones in the past, to the latest iPhone 16 and Galaxy S25's titanium-infused sleek looks, we're uncovering the amazing tale of what makes your phone so tough and fashionable. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss this. Hello all, so, let's talk about smartphones, you know, those things that kind of run our lives these days. They're not for calling or texting alone any longer. They're like our personal assistants, entertainment systems, and so on. But did you ever ask yourself what the secret to the different touch experiences of phones is? Now, while most of us notice what's inside the phone, for example, the hardware and software, there's something really important on the outside too, the design and what they construct the body of the phone with. Surprisingly, that really does impact how the phone feels to use and how long it'll last. The materials themselves have also changed quite a lot over the years. We went from tough plastic casings to thin combinations of metal and glass that are so much classier to touch and look at. Now, in this post, we're going to take a look at the interesting history of smartphone body materials, from the very first real mobile phones, right up to the newest flagships like the iPhone 16 and Samsung Galaxy S25. Knowing how it came to be makes us appreciate the efforts of phone manufacturers to achieve the perfect blend of looks, functionality, and toughness to please us users. Alright, so now let's look a little closer at the story behind what smartphones are actually made of, from plastic to titanium, and all the materials in between. Do you ever wonder why different phones look so different, even though they essentially do the same thing? Smartphones are no longer just devices, they are now a declaration, a combination of technology, lifestyle, and how we present ourselves to the world. But here's something you may not consider as much, the substance that comprises the phone body, that stuff. It's actually that important. It affects the durability of the phone, how it feels when you hold it, the quality of heat absorption, how heavy it is, and actually, how slim it looks. Actually, the materials can impact your experience as much as the software or the screen sharpness. For decades, telephone manufacturers have tried every material under the sun. They used to make them with cheap plastic, and then high-end ceramics, durable metals, and advanced titanium, all in an attempt to achieve that perfect balance between performance and looks. And then, way back in the 80s and 90s, phones did only one thing: talk. No bells and whistles. They were heavy blocks of plastic that were tough and cheap. Looks didn't matter. And then, as technology moved along, phones started to get thinner, wiser, and more personal. The 2000s brought in hot things like flip phones and sliding phones, still mostly plastic, but with new combinations to make them lighter and nicer. Then came the smartphone decade of the 2010s. The iPhone 4 and Samsung Galaxy S series of phones reshuffled the pieces by using glass and aluminum, offering phones that looked and felt so much more high-end. Material was now one of the components that was adding to the brand. Apple fans loved the space-age aluminum and glass finish, and Android makers started playing the same game with their materials and coatings. By the late 2010s and the early 2020s, things had gotten even crazy. Smartphones started using advanced materials like ceramic, stainless steel, and even foldable glass. And then came 2023 and 2024 when Apple phased out titanium frames with the iPhone 15 Pro lineup, and Samsung pushed for phones that were slimmer but more robust in their Galaxy S series. Looking ahead to 2025 with the iPhone 16 and Galaxy S25, it's clear that materials aren't just changing, they're one of the main reasons that a phone, still feels like a phone you want to show off. So this article will walk you through all of that, from the 80s bulky plastic bricks to today's sophisticated titanium beauties. We'll examine how each step of the way was harmonious with what technology had to offer and what customers wanted from their phones. So, now that we've covered how smartphone materials evolved in general, let's roll back to where it all started. The 1980s and 90s, the real early days of mobile phones. How could phones that were so big and heavy become popular? Cell phones were literally bricks at that time. Yes, huge, big, bulky bricks that only affluent businessmen or high rankers would carry. They weren't fashion-conscious or convenient to carry around. It was all about doing just one thing, strictly working. And what was the focal point of that style? Plastic. Grody, plain plastic. Plastic transformed phone makers in the past for a long list of reasons. First, it was much cheaper to manufacture than metal or glass and hence saved money. Second, it was much lighter, which was actually very important because the initial phones were already over a kilo. If they'd had any metal in them, they'd have weighed even heavier. And plastic had its own form of strength, flexible enough to withstand shocks better than the hard, brittle stuff, which made phones last through normal life. In addition, plastic did not disrupt the phone's radio waves like metal would, and it was perfect for enabling antennas to work their magic. Consider the Motorola Dynatac 8000X of 1983, a classic example thereof. This beast was almost 25 centimeters tall and more than a kilogram in weight. But since it was constructed of plastic, it was lighter and cheaper than it would otherwise have been, and they could just curve the case to fit fat buttons and a high-rise antenna. Into the 90s, it migrated, networks increased, price fell, and telephones began to appear in ordinary hands, not just boardroom hands. Telephones grew smaller and cheaper, and plastic stayed as the material of preference, but used more wisely. Design streamlined, texture enhanced, and colors emerged, and telephones became more enjoyable and personal. Leaders like Nokia, Motorola, and Ericsson spearheaded the power. Phones like the Nokia 1011 in '92 and the Motorola StarTAC in '96 succeeded not merely because they performed, but also because they were hip. That StarTAC was an innovation, one of the first to flip, showing how plastic helped to bring about new uses for phones. Nokia got creative too, with phones such as the Nokia 5110, where customers could replace plastic covers to suit their personality, something entirely fresh then. Plastic wasn't just a practical choice, it was also made part of the whole user experience. Exchangeable covers in different colors meant that people could personalize. Phones were lighter, so they were easier to use on a daily basis. Yes, plastic did get scratched occasionally, but it didn't shatter like today's glass phones. And many of those early phones, especially Nokia's, gained legendary status for being hyper-tough, surviving drops, water, and years of rough handling, all thanks to those rugged plastic shells. By the late 90s, phones had moved from being just tools to fashion statements and lifestyle accessories, and plastic was largely behind the phenomenon. It made possible colors, creativity, and affordability all at once. Phones like Nokia 3210 and 5110 weren't just fantastic for battery life, they became symbols of culture with their bold looks and swappable covers. Even the shiny, tough plastic itself became a defining feature of the times. So alright, those 80s and 90s plastic mobile phones? They weren't toys exactly. They led the way for the more attractive, sophisticated materials of later years and contributed to the formation of mobile culture as we know it today. How was it that plastic, not only cheap, but also a representation of strength and endurance? Alright, so around the early 2000s, things started to shift slightly. Phones got smaller, less expensive, and just generally more integrated into daily life. Plastic continued to be the material of preference for phone bodies, but it was no longer the cheap, bulky plastic. They were getting smarter with its use, making the phones more long-lasting, easier to hold, and even slightly fashionable. And at the center of all this was one giant name, Nokia. Nokia totally ruled the mobile world back then. Their telephones were functional, affordable, and most importantly, beautifully rugged. They constructed the majority of them with high-strength polycarbonate plastic. It's that lightweight, but absurdly durable material that more or less made Nokia phones famous for being unbreakable. Take the Nokia 3310 from 2000. For example, it's legendary now because people say it survived everything. Drops, water spills, years of heavy use, and still barely a scratch. But it had nothing to do with being rugged. These phones were just designed in a fashion that everyone adored. Plastic wasn't viewed as tacky at the time, it was a sign of making it. Nokia struggled to design their phone shells to be ergonomic and useful, often choosing matte finishes or texture patterns so the phones would not slip from people's hands or get fingerprints on them. The aesthetic was simplicity, and dependability, not flash. All of the Nokia phones were dull colors like blue, black, or gray, but there were some phones, largely for the teenagers, that had bright colors and even interchangeable panels to add ornamentation. Other companies were also keeping up, especially for those who needed tough phones for field work or sports. Phones like the Siemens M65 and Sony Ericsson R250 were made for that market. These phones had rubber-hardened plastic casing, waterproof charging ports, and texturized surfaces. Plastic was perfect for this purpose because it could withstand shock, dust, and even a splash of water, something metal or glass couldn't do without breaking the bank to make. And plastic became more upscale, too. Manufacturers blended it with rubber treatments or soft-touch materials. That made phones enjoyable to hold and look at without adding any weight or reducing their toughness. That mattered because design was no longer only about how the phone looked, it was about how the phone felt and how well it would last in the long term. By the mid-2000s, phones like the Nokia N95 and Sony Ericsson K800i were loaded with features, cameras, music players, internet, but surprise, they still had plastic casings in the majority. Why? Because plastic was flexible, it could be bent into sliding parts, pop-out lenses, even glow-in-the-dark keys. This allowed phones to pack in desirable features without compromising the functionality that plastic offered. So yes, the early 2000s were basically the heyday of plastic rugged phones. Nokia showed the world that plastic could be premium, durable, and even iconic. Instead of attempting to be pricey or futuristic in design, these phones just wanted to give people the best in everyday life. Plastic made phones functional, personal, and affordable, values that defined an entire generation of phone users. Why did the body material of phones undergo a total overhaul in the 2010s? And then, when the 2010s rolled in, mobile phones changed big time. They weren't just phones for making calls anymore, they were do-it-all devices with work, games, cameras, and social media thrown in. And when that shift occurred, the construction of phones changed big time too, especially in materials. While plastic ruled the world of mobiles for a few decades, it slowly started to become history. High-end material like metal and glass came to the forefront, marking the start of a new world where design and feel were as paramount as functionality. Phones were no longer just gadgets, they became symbols of status. Apple and Samsung led the charge. Apple turned things upside down in 2010 with the iPhone 4. It featured a stainless steel casing sandwiched between two pieces of glass, front and back. Gone was the plastic casing of earlier iPhones, and instead, it changed smartphones forever to feel and look like they should. Suddenly, your phone resembled a genuine luxury item, cool, hard, and upmarket. Samsung then quite rapidly followed with its Galaxy S series. The initial models were still plastic, but with every new model, the design improved. By 2015, when the Galaxy S6 came out, Samsung had fully embraced glass and metal. It featured an aluminum body and glassy rear with glossy back, a clear sign that plastic was no longer the material of choice for high-end phones. But these new materials weren't just for show. They had true benefits, and some detriments too. Glass was beautiful to look at and nice to the touch, and it allowed for things like wireless charging. It was, however, breakable. One fall would crack your entire phone. Metal, especially aluminum, hardened and toughened phones. Metal also helped with heat dispersal. But metal would interfere with wireless signals, and so the majority of phones started to incorporate plastic or glass antenna pieces. Other manufacturers soon followed. HTC's One M7 of 2013 was a standout, made entirely of aluminum. It set the bar for Android phone design. Sony went with a glass-forward look with its Xperia line, and OnePlus married metal and glass to offer premium appearance at lower prices. By the late 2010s, the material war escalated further. Phones started testing ceramic backs for increased scratch protection and matte finishes to reduce fingerprints. Foldables introduced ultra-thin glass that is bendable along with avant-garde design and cutting-edge engineering. The shift away from plastic wasn't one of luxury, it was one of brand identity. When you carried around a glass and metal phone, it said something about you. businesses knew this and used materials to differentiate themselves. Of course, plastic didn't disappear. It remained used on budget and mid-range phones and silently hidden under pretty-up-looking finishes. But on flagships, the phones that set headlines, metal and glass became the standard. So the 2010s weren't just about better screens or faster processors, they were about a total rethinking of what a phone should look and feel like. Materials started to come into play in the user experience. And by the end of the decade, the era of rugged plastic had given way to the shiny, slim world of metal and glass smartphones. What are the new materials and technology that have made phones lighter and yet better today? Phone makers in India and elsewhere have pushed even harder in their designs and materials in the last few years in a quest to get the better of style, strength, and performance. Two of the best-awaited flagships today, the Apple iPhone 16 and Samsung's Galaxy S25, reflect the future technology in phone manufacturing and material science. Apple has taken its material play to the next level with the iPhone 16. Continuing its previous innovations, Apple still boasts its in-house ceramic shield glass on the front and back panels, offering the industry's best scratch and accidental drop protection. But the real enhancement is in the frame. Apple has substituted stainless steel with a titanium one. Titanium is a superior material that embodies the best of lightness and unheralded strength and corrosion resistance. This would mean iPhone 16 is not only stronger than previous iPhones, but also lighter to hold in the hand for hours. The stunning matte finish adds to its sophisticated look and reduces fingerprints visible to the naked eye, making it lovely and functional. Apple's embrace of titanium says volumes about their dedication to combining cutting-edge materials science with streamlined, functional design. Samsung keeps pushing the boundaries with the Galaxy S25 through a new armor aluminum frame that is both lighter but stronger than earlier aluminum alloys. The frame is also meant to be impact and bending proof, one of the largest issues with increasingly thinner phones. For the front and back panels, Samsung uses Gorilla Glass Victus 3, the latest, toughest family of chemically strengthened glass. This glass provides maximum drop protection and scratch resistance compared to earlier iterations. With its rounded corners and smooth texture, the Galaxy S25 features a slim, premium look that is as comfortable to hold as it is to behold. Both Galaxy S25 and iPhone 16 present how premium materials continue to advance in today's smartphones. Both solve common concerns like weakness and weight and further enhance the elegance and comfort of the devices. Through such materials as titanium and high-grade aluminum alloys, widely implemented in aerospace and high-performance technology, manufacturers reflect just how much they truly desire to tackle the demands of modern consumers. These materials also open up new design possibilities, like slimmer profiles, better heat dissipation, and complete wireless charging compatibility. The trend towards the use of strong, light metals combined with rugged glass ensures that flagship smartphones stay not just stunning, but more durable when it comes to the wear and tear of everyday life. The smartphone body is an important component that not only determines the look of the phone, but also affects durability, weight, and overall feel in the hand. As technology advances and consumer demand mounts for lighter, tougher, and more environmentally friendly phones, materials used in smartphone body production are poised for revolutionary change. This section explores future directions and potential innovation in smartphone body material. Strengthening impact, scratch, and physical stress resistance is one of the biggest manufacturing challenges. Gorilla Glass has done much to protect smartphones, but it can still be damaged from high drops. This has prompted ongoing research into developing new materials, such as ceramic glass and liquid glass, which are rumored to have higher toughness and scratch resistance without added bulk or weight. Conversely, robust and light metals like aluminum and titanium are still on demand because they are resilient and have premium appearances. High thermal conductance of metals, however, causes them to heat during extensive usage. To overcome the problem, the future smartphones can employ new metal alloys that will attain high strength with lowered thermal conductivity, boosting comfort in addition to performance. Composite materials and carbon fiber, already widely used in aerospace and motor applications, are also of immense potential. Their high strength-to-weight ratios could make smartphones more robust but lighter, a value particularly coveted by professionals and gamers who require sturdy devices without added bulk. Environmental sustainability is also a driving force for the future. Material selection. With manufacturers seeking ways to minimize dependence on non-recyclable plastics, recycled materials, bioplastics, and sustainable composites are set to become increasingly prevalent. These alternatives seek to find a balance between being environmentally conscious and the strength and quality consumers demand. Innovation won't be confined to base materials. Smartphone cases are in the works with self-healing coatings that heal minor scratches automatically. Advanced antibacterial, anti-fingerprint, and water-resistant coatings are becoming smarter as well, with advanced protection and a cleaner user experience. Finally, the path of stunning, ergonomic design will open the way to more hybrid material approaches. Upcoming smartphones may use metals in structural regions for firmness and glass or light materials in other regions to offer an advanced haptic experience and ultimate comfort. The transformation of the materials used for smartphone bodies from the original plastic casings to the present advanced metals and glass testifies to the fast evolution of mobile technology and shifting consumer demands. In the early days, durable plastic bodies, like those in the legendary Nokia phones, offered affordability and strength, making them a symbol of reliability. As smartphones became integral to contemporary life during the 2010s, makers adopted high-end materials such as glass and metal. This shift transformed smartphones into luxurious lifestyle devices from mere tools. Though these materials presented novel engineering obstacles, advancements in materials science made it possible to create slim, resilient, and visually sophisticated designs. Flagship devices, such as the iPhone 16 and Galaxy S25 are the epitome of this development today, with the use of aerospace-grade titanium and sophisticated aluminum alloys, and next-generation protective glass. These innovations testify to a constant pursuit of balance between beauty and durability, elegance and performance. As we move forward, the smartphone body is only going to evolve even more radically. As sustainability, user experience, and durability converge, we can expect new eco-friendly composites, smart coatings, and innovative materials that defy what a smartphone needs to be. Last but not least, the evolution of smartphone materials is less a tale of design trends, it's a testament to human ingenuity, constantly reshaping the devices we use daily into smarter, tougher, and more beautiful tools for life.